Story 1. I pretended to have a vasectomy. 2 years later, and my wife is pregnant. I'm going through a horrible dilemma, and I'm so deep in I have no idea what to do. My wife and I have been married for 9 years, and we have 2 kids together, and we aren't planning on having any more. Well, my wife is set on that idea, but I wanted to have at least 5 kids, and she only wanted to have 1 or none. This doesn't take away from the fact that she's a great mother. It's just her preference. Going into the marriage, we sort of compromised to have maybe 2 or 3 kids. I am set on having 3, but she doesn't want any more. It's been 5 years since having the first 2, and around 2 years ago she was hell-bent on me getting a vasectomy. I wasn't comfortable with it and refused, but it became the center of our arguments. We dated for 5 years before getting married, so we've been together for a total of 12 years when this occurred. Now we've been together for 14 years. These were such lovely times, and I didn't want to end our relationship on this, especially since we have kids together. So I agreed to the vasectomy after months of arguing. Fast forward to now, my wife is pregnant. She doesn't know how this could have happened, but I do. I never got the vasectomy 2 years ago. I pretended that I got it, and I told her someone else took me to the appointment, and I took off a week of work so I can recover from it. I tried to be precautionary during sex by pulling out, but it clearly didn't work. Now my wife is furious as I told her that the vasectomy could have failed, rather than telling her the truth. She's also scheduling appointments with lawyers so she can sue the practice in which I received the surgery. However, if they have the records, it will prove that I never got it. Now my wife is also thinking about having an abortion, but I'm trying to convince her to drop the whole thing. And if anything, this child is a miracle. What should I do now? I'm worried if I tell her the truth that she'll leave me. I don't want to lose her. She's the love of my life. I don't know what I can do without her. I know this is my fault, but please help me on how I should go about this. Too long didn't read. Wife got pregnant. She thinks I had a vasectomy, but I never got it. She wants to sue the practice. How do I tell her? First of all, you are completely the a-hole. You don't want her telling you what to do with your body, yet you're trying to prevent her from making her choice with a kid she didn't want. And you lied. Definitely the a-hole. You just have no choice. You have to face the music. You have to talk about it, and it sounds like you've had arguments about this before, but it's going to come out at one point or another, especially if she's going to go ahead with a lawsuit. You can't go forward with that and then have it all come out in court. Story 2. My friend, 31 female, asked me, 29 female, to house sit while out of the country. Then I saw her in my city, and she blocked me. What on earth is going on? Too long didn't read? Friend gave me her keys and asked me to watch her apartment while on vacation. Then I saw her in my city, and she blocked me. Meanwhile, I still have access to her apartment and no way to contact her. My head is completely spinning as I am in the weirdest interpersonal situation I've ever encountered. A few weeks back, my friend Carla told me she was going on a month-long vacation to her home country and needed someone to tend to her apartment and water her plants. She said I was welcome to use the apartment as I pleased and stay there. I jumped at the opportunity as she lives in a neighborhood of the city that I really like. We're not best friends, but very close. After Carla left around 3 weeks ago, I shot her a couple of texts to see how she was doing and some silly proof-of-life photos of her plants. No response. Left on delivery. Okay, I thought. She's busy hanging out with friends and family back home. Then, this morning, I'm walking down the street in the city, and who do I run into but Carla? And it's not like I saw her from across the street. We literally physically crossed paths as she was leaving a bagel shop with some guy. I was completely shocked, but just said, "Oh, hi, you're back already? I thought you were due back at the beginning of August." And she just very quickly blurted out, "Oh, yeah, I was going to text you. I'm back already. Let's catch up later," and side-hugged me and then hurried off. Around an hour later, I sat down in the park to have lunch and pulled out my phone. I decided to just text her that I hope everything is okay. And I'm shocked to find out that she's blocked me absolutely everywhere. In a panic, I tried to call her, straight to voicemail. Mind you, I still have the keys to Carla's apartment. I have no idea what to do and am in complete shock. My mind goes to the wildest places. Is she in danger and being trafficked by this person? Seems unlikely, but who knows? I do not plan to return to the apartment and am going to find a way to leave the keys at the front desk. In the meantime, can anyone help me understand what the hell is going on? Update 2. Keys dropped off. Hi, everyone. As mentioned, I went down to Carla's place again this afternoon to drop off her keys. I told the doorwoman Carla had asked me to leave her keys and to please let her know that I did so when she got back. The doorwoman made a comment about how she couldn't wait to see Carla's dog again, so I decided to probe and see if she knew anything. All she knew is that Carla would be away for a month and that someone would be in and out while she was gone. The doorwomen in the building are pretty friendly and social. I met some of them before while visiting Carla. They're pretty in the know about what's going on in the building. I asked if she'd seen Carla coming or going, and she said no. So that's done and dusted. I got rid of the keys and no longer have access to the apartment. Some mentioned I should go in and get pictures, stay there and wait for her to come back, etc. But I was just too scared to take the risk. Some of you have asked how I know Carla. Our friendship goes back about 5 years. We both worked in a toxic office environment and kind of bonded over how much we hated it, and quit at the same time. We remained friends even though we didn't talk too much until after the pandemic. Over the past year or so, we've hung out regularly, just doing normal stuff like grabbing coffee or drinks, movies, etc. I've always noticed that she's pretty private and quiet, but not in a concerning way. She came to the U.S. for college, so she's been in the country for a long time. She was briefly married to an American man after college, but he's out of the picture and she never mentions him. She's from a very conservative, traditional background. Some have mentioned rehab or illicit substances, and I guess it's a possibility, but it would just be so out of character for her to be involved in anything like that. Some have also asked for more details about our interaction yesterday. Literally, it was so unremarkable besides how hurried she'd seemed. But she didn't seem scared or distressed, just initially very surprised to see me, and then kind of rushed. The guy she was with was just a generic-looking young white guy, and he even smiled politely and waved as they were running off. He did not look menacing and did not have his hands on her or anything, but I know that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I hope to have more updates soon. I reached out to another mutual friend, a fellow former coworker, and hope to get a response soon. Well, you're not the a-hole. I mean, you're concerned. You said that you two were close, but not best friends. But it could be one thing or another. She could really be in trouble, or it should just be a very personal situation that she's not comfortable sharing with you. I would have probably just kept going with the apartment and just maintained it. You know that she's going to come back. I mean, if it's possible that she doesn't come back when she said she would, then that might be an issue to get more involved. Maybe talk to her when she gets back, or keep texting her. If she's willing to share something different, then cool. And if not, it's kind of not your business, but maybe let someone know, talk to someone in authority just in case. It's kind of hard to say, but so far you're keeping your respectful distance.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 3. Maintenance guy throws out 15 years of important knowledge. A guy I worked with knew he was going to get fired, so he threw out his notebook that had 15 years of notes of how to do his job. Management really wanted that book so they could get rid of him but keep his knowledge. They tried to unfire him until he could write it down again. He said no and left. A while ago, I worked at a baseball store called Walmart, or a general goods store that sounded like that, not so long after the Great Recession of 2008. and management was trying to cut costs because of falling profit. One of the first things management did was fire 2 of the 3 full-time maintenance/cleaning guys. The one guy they kept, I'll call him MG for maintenance guy, was amazing at his job. Everything in the store ran well because of him and his willingness to go beyond what was required to help people. A genuinely nice guy. For 6 months, management tried to make 1/3 of the maintenance staff work, and it failed miserably. MG could not do everything, and over time, management increasingly asked him to coordinate some part-timers that were supposed to do the cleaning in carts. He spent so much time coordinating that he had no time for maintenance. The night crew was also cut, so they couldn't pick up the slack. Then, 2 things happened within the space of a week that told management how important he was to the store running well. First, some cleaning machines broke down. Turns out they have to be properly cleaned weekly. If left alone, they gum up real bad and parts wear out quickly. A several $1,000 repair bill because he was told to prioritize coordinating part-timers over tinkering with machines. A few days later, the deli lady nearly quit after the blade on the deli slicer went flying off and could have cut her face badly. Turns out that the bolt that held it in place was loose, and MG had tightened it weekly for her. When he didn't have time to do that anymore, he told management it had to be replaced for safety. Well, management didn't do that because it cost money, but they told people it was fixed. That could have been a lawsuit or criminal charges. They and the deli lady got lucky. So management sat down with him and asked him why things were going wrong. MG told them point blank he needed enough time for maintenance, and someone else had to coordinate the part-time cleaners and check up on them. They were rather lazy. Management called BS. They said maintenance should be easy and done quickly. MG got mad because that insulted his professionalism, and he pulled out his notebook from his back pocket. It turns out that over 15 years, he had filled the book with charts, schedules, and diagrams of how to do his job and keep things running. There were over 100 things he checked weekly or monthly. There were a lot of machines he kept in running order. Some had certain things that were half broken and had to be wiggled in a certain way, etc. To be honest, a lot of these things were minor or major safety hazards, but over the years, management was fine with not replacing multi-$1,000 machines if MG knew how to keep them working. As well, he did things that he should not have done, like calibrating machines for departments that should have done it themselves or contracted it out, etc. But he was a nice guy and he liked helping people. He told me that he spent about a half hour telling management about what he did, and he suspected that until then, nobody had ever known how much he did. Well, he may have said a few swear words and derogatory things while telling management why he needed time to do stuff. It was not a good moment for him, and he was ticked. At the end, he put his notebook back in his pocket and offered to take a week to write up everything he knew so that management would have written proof of why his job mattered in a case a higher-up asked why they increased maintenance costs when the corporate was demanding they cut costs. The multiple managers in the room looked at each other and asked him to leave so they could talk in private. He told me several years later, when I ran into him somewhere and had lunch with him, that he had a premonition as he walked out of the room. So he went to the back room and tossed his notebook in the garbage compactor. For good measure, he then went around the store and emptied all the garbage cans and tossed those bags in so his notebook was properly buried. He was fine with it. All that information was in his head. After a few minutes later, management called him back. They told him that they could not allow him to keep working there because of the level of insubordination he had shown. They said as soon as he surrendered his badge, box cutter, and notebook, he would be escorted out of the building by security. They basically treated him like a criminal. Most fired people are not escorted out unless they were suspected of committing a crime that could not be proved. He handed over his badge and box cutter, and they asked for the notebook. He said he threw it in the compactor. Their eyes went wide, and they asked why he threw it out. He said he thought he was going to write up everything nicely on the computer from memory, so he thought he was done with the notebook. At this point, management starts looking at each other worried, because they had intended to take his book, fire him, and have a less subordinate part-timer who doesn't get expensive benefits like a full-timer do his job. Now they couldn't. One of the managers suggested that he be allowed to write up the info before being escorted out. The others agreed. He was given the chance to be unfired just long enough to give them the info. How kind. He laughed and walked out, head held high, and management followed him to his car to make sure he left. I don't have exact numbers, but I guesstimate the store had to spend at least $20,000 or $30,000 to replace stuff that MG had kept working beyond the equipment's lifespan. And the new guy they hired had a hell of a time figuring out how things worked. To be honest, in a few cases, MG had gone too far, like creating fire hazards by taping broken chargers together after rewiring them instead of tossing them. But management had never complained when he saved them money. There were also a lot of things that should have been done by the health and safety team or the departments, but they also never complained about having less work. I asked him if throwing out that notebook was illegal, but he said it was personal property to help him remember things. It was not a work-provided notebook. He was proud of what he did. His pride clearly showed in how he told the story. He said that nobody is allowed to question his professional judgment by implying he's lazy. I agree. Edit. After reading the comments, I'll say a few things to clarify some things. It might be too late for that, but I don't check online while I sleep. I came in the day after the deli machine incident. I was hearing things and asked someone what happened. I was told that the machine malfunctioned while the deli lady was using it, and she freaked out and refused to come in. She took a few days off to calm her nerves. Over the course of the next few days, I heard multiple versions of the story. Some involving the blade coming off, some not, and one that involved the blade getting lodged in the ceiling. Did I pick an interesting version of it to retell? Yes. The problem with telling someone else's story is it keeps getting better every time it's told. So if you see people commenting that deli machines don't work that way, they're probably right. I mentioned that this happened during or soon after the Great Recession, which is important. According to people there, management used to readily approve replacing damaged equipment. It was after the recession they stopped doing that and relied on MG's temporary fixes. A lot of what he did was not supposed to last. He was really ticked at the end because multiple times management had refused to replace stuff that was obviously broken, and at times management had told them that they would replace something and then change their minds without telling them. This is why he really snapped at the end. Some people have pointed out that replacing $20,000 of machinery is cheaper than paying a guy for 15 years. This is technically true, but stuff does not stop breaking down or stop needing to be cleaned just because someone was fired. The store had to replace him anyhow, so firing him did not save money. As well, that $20,000 or so of replacement should have happened over 4 or 5 fiscal years, not all at once. Chances are some manager kept getting good annual reviews for keeping capital spending down, not realizing that he was just postponing the inevitable. Final edit. I don't know what exactly was in the book, but I can speculate. Yes, it was probably a lot of scribbles that could not be easily deciphered. Yes, in the long run, he was easily replaceable, and the incident is a blip on profit. The one major thing management probably really wanted was the list of what machines needed to be watched or tinkered. The couple weeks or so after he left were a poop show because people were afraid to use stuff because of crazy stories circulating about deli lady, see above. But within 2 months, things were humming along fine. However, this is not some forum about proper management or profitability. It's about revenge. And he got his revenge. Yes, definitely. I was surprised that management didn't try to frame him for any of the stuff going wrong in the store, especially that thing with the deli thing. They probably could have kind of framed him illegally, but they probably could have framed him for that kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting that in that respect, they were as honorable as they would. They were just trying to get a hold of his information. And they could have probably just paid him, made him a manager, and paid him just a little bit more. That would have probably saved profits and in the long run, probably less than $20,000 to replace a bunch of machines. Definitely got his revenge. Definitely.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.